When people think about moving to Fargo, they usually think of it just as one city, Fargo. That's it, one dot on the map. But when you actually live here, that's not how you think about it at all. Locals break Fargo down by direction. North Fargo, South Fargo, West Fargo, and then Moorhead just across the river. Plus, a handful of fast-growing towns nearby that people lump in depending on where they spend their time, like Horace, Dilworth, and Harwood. Each area feels different. The homes are different, the pace is different, the price points are different. And depending on your lifestyle, one side of town might feel perfect, while another might feel like an immediate no. So today on Living in Fargo, North Dakota, I'm breaking down the different areas of the Fargo Metro and what you should know about each one before choosing where to live. And just to be clear up front, I absolutely have my own preferences for where I would live, but that's not what this video is about. My job isn't to tell you where you should live. It's to give you the information so you can decide what works best for you. If this is your first time to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell for notifications so you're the first to know about all things going on in and around Fargo, North Dakota. I'm Megan Oy with Realty Experts, and every day I talk to people just like you. So whether you are 9 days, 90 days, or 9 months from your move to or around Fargo, North Dakota, I'm here to help make that a smooth transition. All of my contact information is listed in the description below. Please reach out in whatever way is most comfortable for you. Before we break things down by area, it really helps to see Fargo from above, because once you understand the map, everything else starts to make sense. So you have Fargo itself, but surrounding that, you have West Fargo, Horace, and then going into Minnesota, we have Moorhead, which rolls into Dilworth. Then you have towns that aren't physically attached, but are still absolutely part of the Fargo orbit. Harwood sits just north of Fargo, about a 16-minute drive from the city. Mapleton is northwest of West Fargo and is typically around an 11-minute drive. And Castleton is a little past that and is usually around 18 minutes in the car. On the south side, Oxbow is a nice 10-minute drive from Fargo, and Sabin is a short 10-minute drive or less from Moorhead. Those distances are important to understand because while these towns may look far on a map, in reality, you're incredibly close to Fargo's jobs, shopping, schools, and events. A lot of people choose these communities and those that are even slightly farther out that I have not mentioned, specifically because they can have more space, a quieter setting, a smaller school district, without giving up access to everything Fargo offers. Now, if you're looking at Fargo on a map, the city is literally split north and south by Main Avenue. Addresses north of Main Avenue are North Fargo, and addresses south of Main Avenue are South Fargo. Simple, clean, very Midwest, and honestly kind of satisfying. What's funny is that this same setup continues across the river. Moorhead also uses Main Avenue as its north and south divider, and so does West Fargo. So once you understand that one reference point, you can orient yourself pretty quickly no matter which side of town you're on. Now, speaking of across the river, let's talk about Moorhead for a second. I have to say this because anyone who grew up here will appreciate it. Back when I was in high school, kids from Fargo used to jokingly refer to Moorhead as East Fargo, like it was some kind of insult to us Moorhead kids. We hated it. That was a lifetime ago. But if you ever hear someone jokingly call Moorhead East Fargo, just know it's a very local, very outdated joke, and it doesn't even bother us Moorhead-grown millennials anymore. But geographically speaking, Moorhead sits directly east of Fargo and is completely integrated into daily life here. So when we talk about Fargo, we're not just talking about city limits. We're talking about a network of closely connected communities, all centered around the same core. And once you understand how that layout works, choosing where to live becomes much less overwhelming. When someone says they're moving to Fargo, what they're really choosing is how new or established they want their neighborhood to be, how close they want to be to work or the interstate and other amenities, and which side of the metro fits their lifestyle best. Let's start with the OG, North Fargo. North Fargo is one of the most established parts of the entire metro. This area developed earlier than much of Fargo, which means you'll see older homes, mature trees, a wide variety of lot sizes, and neighborhoods that feel settled, cozy, and consistent. Starting just north of Main Avenue is where you'll find the true downtown feel, with high-end condos overlooking Broadway, mixed in with affordable apartments, historic buildings, and walkable streets. This part of the city feels more urban and cultural. You're closer to a big variety of restaurants, coffee shops, events, entertainment, and some of the most recognizable spots in Fargo. Just north of downtown, you'll also find the Roger Maris Cancer Center, which is part of Sanford Health and serves patients from across the region. As you move farther north from downtown, the housing quickly transitions into some of the older residential neighborhoods in the city. These are homes that were often built 80 to 100 years ago, many on smaller lots with a lot of architectural character. Some properties have been beautifully maintained, while others, unfortunately, have not. It really is a bit of a mixed bag between downtown and 12th Avenue North. Continuing north, you reach the campus of North Dakota State University, which is best known nationally for its strength in agriculture, engineering and research, and it plays a major role in the local economy. It's also widely recognized for its football program, which has built a national reputation over the years and brings a lot of attention and energy to the area. Because this is a major college campus, you'll see a higher concentration of investment properties in this area, with homes purchased and rented out to students. That said, it's not exclusively rentals. Many people still use these homes as their primary residence, especially NDSU faculty and staff and longtime North Fargo homeowners. The campus itself stretches farther north than many people realize, and it's anchored by the Fargo Dome, which is one of the largest event venues in the region. Between football games, concerts, and large events, this area stays active, but it's also balanced by surrounding residential neighborhoods. Once you move farther north and closer to the river, North Fargo changes again. And this is where you'll find some of the most sought-after homes in the entire metro. These neighborhoods are farther removed from downtown activity and feel more tucked away. Homes here are incredibly unique, often very well maintained, situated on generously sized lots. There's a reason people really love North Fargo. Homes in and around Longfellow Elementary School area in particular tend to be in extremely high demand. It's not uncommon for buyers to wait for something to come on the market there because inventory is limited and turnover is low. People love this neighborhood and surrounding ones as well. Once you get north of roughly 19th Avenue and closer to the river, it almost feels like its own micro market within the city. As you head farther west towards the interstate, you're also close to the Fargo International Airport, which is a major convenience for frequent travelers. The recent addition of a parking ramp has been a big improvement, especially during winter months when long-term parking used to be a big challenge. There have been a few newer developments sprinkled into North Fargo over the years, but they've been relatively small and filled up quickly. There may still be a handful of higher-end lots available, and that's something worth researching if new construction in North Fargo is a priority. From an amenities standpoint, North Fargo also holds its own. As you move toward the northern stretches of the city, you'll find a solid mix of restaurants and local spots, along with Fargo North High School, which has a popular outdoor pool with a slide, and Edgewood Golf Course, which many consider one of the most challenging scenic courses in the Fargo Park District, thanks to its wooded layout and proximity to the river. Overall, North Fargo offers a blend that's hard to replicate elsewhere in the metro. Historic homes, established neighborhoods, proximity to downtown, and some of the most desirable residential pockets in the area. It's not for everyone, but for the people it fits really well. Now, we're gonna stay in Fargo proper, but let's head south. South Fargo is such a large and diverse area that it really makes sense to break it up by zip code, because the lifestyle and housing change dramatically as you move south. Once you cross Main Avenue heading south, you're in the 58103 zip code. And this is what I'd call established South Fargo. This area still carries some of downtown energy, but it very quickly transitions into some of the most historic, beautiful homes Fargo has to offer. Right along the river, just south of Main Avenue, you'll find high-end condos with views of the water and immediate access to Island Park, which is one of the largest parks in the city and now features a brand new outdoor pool. This is where urban living starts to soften into residential living. You're close to downtown, but you're also surrounded by green space and quieter streets. As you move farther into 58103, you enter neighborhoods filled with truly stunning historic homes, many of them 100 years old or more. These homes tend to be larger, extremely well-maintained, and full of architectural character. 8th Street South is a great example of this. It's one of those streets that longtime locals quietly know is something special. The surrounding blocks are equally impressive, with mature trees and homes that feel both stately and lived in. Generally speaking, these historic South Fargo neighborhoods tend to be more consistently maintained than the older neighborhoods just north of Main Avenue. That's not a knock on North Fargo. It's simply how investments, lot sizes, and long-term ownership patterns have played out over time. The result is that this part of South Fargo feels very polished, cohesive, and very sought after. As you continue moving south within 58103, the homes gradually transition into 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, and even some 1980s builds. These neighborhoods stretch farther south than many people expect and offer a really appealing middle ground. The homes still have character and charm, but with slightly more modern layouts and solid construction. These areas are extremely popular and tend to have strong demand. Many of these neighborhoods are tucked close to Lindenwood Park, which connects directly across the Red River to Gooseberry Park via a pedestrian bridge. That connection is a big lifestyle draw, especially for people who value walking, biking, cross-country skiing, and river access while still being close to the heart of the city. Also, within the 58103 zip code is the Fargo Country Club, which is tucked back near the river and offers a more private, established setting. As you move west within 58103 zip code, South Fargo shifts again. And this is where things start to feel much more active and commercial. This part of 58103 is home to Fargo South High School, which, like Fargo North, has an outdoor pool with a slide and is a big summer draw for families. Surrounding the school, you'll find established residential neighborhoods mixed in with increasing commercial development. This western stretch of 58103 is one of the busiest parts of the city, especially on the weekends and during the holidays. There's a large concentration of restaurants, retail, and service-based businesses, which makes it a major hub for daily life in Fargo. Once you hit 13th Avenue South, you're on one of Fargo's main commercial corridors. This is where you'll find West Acres Mall, along with nearly every type of shopping experience Fargo has to offer. National retailers, local businesses, grocery stores, and a wide range of dining options. For many people, if they need something quickly, this is where they go. Commercial activity continues along 25th Street South, which has developed significantly over time, as well as along 32nd Avenue South, another major artery packed with restaurants, retail, and service businesses. This area is very much built for convenience and accessibility. You'll also find Essentia Health located in this part of South Fargo, making medical services easily accessible for residents. Main Avenue also plays a role here, especially closer to downtown where many older businesses, restaurants, and original commercial buildings still operate. As you move south from Main Avenue, the pattern becomes clear. The farther south you go within 58103, the newer the development tends to be. This is an important distinction because while 58103 includes a wide range of home styles and commercial areas, it is still considered the more established side of South Fargo. As you continue farther south and begin to transition out of 58103, South Fargo shifts into the 58104 zip code, and this is where the city starts to feel noticeably newer overall. If we start along the eastern edge of Fargo in 58104, one of the first major landmarks you'll run into is Rose Creek Golf Course. The surrounding neighborhoods here were largely built in the late 90s and early 2000s. These homes tend to be higher end with larger footprints and more traditional layouts. Many of them are still very well maintained, but stylistically, this is where you might see finishes that reflect the era they were built in. Think less neglected and more, this could use an update to move beyond the golden oak phase, which if you know, you know. As you move farther south from Rose Creek, development becomes much newer very quickly. In fact, the highest concentration of new construction in the Fargo Moorhead metro is happening in the southern parts of town. That trend isn't unique to Fargo either. You see similar patterns in the southern portions of Moorhead and West Fargo and Horace overall as well. Growth across the metro is largely pushing south. As you move along 52nd Avenue South, this is where you really start to see how fast this part of Fargo is growing. This corridor has become one of the most active, amenity-packed areas in the city. You'll find a strong mix of grocery options here, including Cashwise Foods, Aldi, Walmart, and other everyday conveniences, which makes this area especially attractive for people who want newer neighborhoods without having to drive far for basic needs. But it's not just practical, it's also very fun. This stretch includes places like Sweet Shots for golf, Kingpins for bowling and entertainment, and the newer Slick City Slide Park. And I feel like I should say this for the adults watching, it is not just for kids. I went there with my kids recently and learned that I apparently still love slides just as much as I did when I was 10. Just a little south of 52nd Avenue, you'll also find the newer Fargo Sports Complex, which has turned into a major hub for activity and events. The facility includes multiple basketball courts, indoor soccer fields, an indoor track, a weight room, and dedicated play areas for kids. There are also indoor ice rinks, which means this area stays busy year-round, especially with tournaments and youth sports bringing people in from all over the region. And because no growing area is complete without it, there's also a brand new Target plan for this part of town, which people are genuinely excited about because if Fargo loves anything collectively, it's convenient shopping and a good Target run. Overall, the 52nd Avenue area really highlights what 58104 is becoming. It's newer, it's energetic, and it's designed around convenience, entertainment, and everyday life, all in one place. What's interesting about this part of 58104 is that it's become a popular landing spot for newer local businesses. You're not necessarily seeing long-established Fargo staples relocating out here. Instead, it's newer, on-trend businesses choosing this area as their starting point, which gives it a slightly different feel than Fargo's older commercial corridors. Another major street in this zip code is 45th Street South. This corridor runs from Horace all the way north and becomes a hub for more well-known retailers and restaurants. This is where you'll find places like Shields, along with a concentration of recognizable brands and restaurants, making it feel more like a traditional retail strip compared to the boutique-heavy areas farther south. One thing that's important to understand in 58104 is how seamlessly South Fargo transitions into West Fargo. Veterans Boulevard plays a big role here. Generally speaking, everything on the east side of Veterans Boulevard is considered South Fargo, and everything on the west side of it is West Fargo. That boundary brings with it even more newer restaurants, grocery stores, and amenities. On the South Fargo side of Veterans, you'll find places like Shields Arena and Sanford Wellness, and notice Sanford Medical Center in Fargo, the large, newer-looking hospital that people often describe as looking like a castle. It is in fact not a castle, but it is a major medical hub for the region and a big reason this part of South Fargo continues to grow. On the west side of Veterans Boulevard, you'll find more grocery options and restaurants, including Costco, which is somehow always busy. Every time I'm in there in the middle of a weekday, I catch myself thinking, does anyone work anymore? And then I remember I'm also there. So moving on, what makes this area confusing for newcomers is that once you take Veterans Boulevard north over I-94, both sides of the road are considered West Fargo. So the boundary line between Fargo and West Fargo, they don't follow a simple straight line. They weave and shift depending on where you are. And if you're not familiar with the area, you may not even realize when you've crossed from one city into another. And that's really the story of 58104. It's newer, it's growing quickly, it's full of newer housing, schools, businesses, and it blends seamlessly into neighboring communities. It represents where much of Fargo's future growth is happening, while still being closely connected to the rest of the metro. Since we're already watching how South Fargo transitions almost seamlessly into West Fargo, this is a natural place to shift the conversation to the city of West Fargo itself. West Fargo is laid out in a way that generally flows from older to newer as you move north to south, with a few exceptions along the way. On the north end of the city, you'll find some of the more established neighborhoods, older parks, and long-standing businesses. Interestingly, there has also been a pocket of new construction added at the very far north side within the last decade. So if someone wanted to be closer to older, established parts of town, but still have a newer home, that can actually be a great option. There has also been discussion around an additional elementary school development in the northern part of West Fargo, although plans there still continue to evolve. Once you hit Main Avenue in West Fargo, you're right in the heart of where many of the city's most recognizable businesses are located. This includes the original flagship location of Sandy's Donuts, which is where it all started before Sandy's expanded throughout the metro. This part of town also includes the Red River Valley Fairgrounds, home of the Red River Valley Fair, along with Bonanzaville, a historic pioneer village featuring some preserved buildings, artifacts, and homes that reflect the early settlement history of the Red River Valley. It's a really unique piece of community that a lot of people don't realize is right here in West Fargo. One of the most important streets in West Fargo, especially as you move from older to newer areas, is Cheyenne Street. If you start at Main Avenue and head south on Cheyenne, you might be surprised by how updated this area feels. Even though we're talking about a city that generally flows from older to newer, this stretch has seen a lot of intentional redevelopment. It's become kind of a downtown West Fargo with a blend of retail, dining, offices, and entertainment. This is also where you'll find Junkyard Brewing Company, which expanded here after starting in Moorhead. Heading south on Cheyenne, you'll run into Essentia Health Plaza, which is an outdoor gathering space used for large community events and concerts throughout the year. In the winter, it turns into an ice rink, which is adorable and festive, just not personally my thing. I'm much more of a summer events person. This area is part of The Lights, a mixed-use development that includes condos, apartments, commercial space, and the event venue itself. It also happens to be where my brokerage's office is located. As you move farther south in West Fargo, especially once you get past I-29, development becomes noticeably newer. Much of the housing on the west side and the southwest sides of the city have been built within the last 10 years, with a wide range of options. You'll find everything from entry-level and first-time homebuyer homes to higher-end properties and luxury builds. New construction has been especially popular here due to the area's population growth over the last couple of decades and the availability of land to support that demand. In some of the lower price ranges, you'll see a mix of owner-occupied homes and investment properties. As prices increase, the number of investment properties naturally drops off and you start to see more owner-occupied long-term residents. This southern part of West Fargo also includes some of the most high-end residential neighborhoods in the entire community. These are genuinely fun areas to drive through. Homes with incredible design, large lots, and in many cases, price points that cross well over the $1 million mark. This area is also home to newer schools, including Cheyenne High School on the south side of the city, while West Fargo High School is located farther north, just above 13th Avenue. Near Cheyenne High School, you'll also find Osgood Golf Course, which adds to the recreational appeal of the area. One thing West Fargo consistently does exceptionally well is parks. The playgrounds are more modern, more creative, and genuinely more functional than what you'll see and find in many other communities. You'll see thoughtfully designed spaces with exercise equipment, walking paths, and features that actually get used by residents, not just installed and forgotten. As you continue farther south, West Fargo begins to blend into neighboring communities, with the newest development nearing Horace. At that point, it can be difficult to tell where one city ends and another city begins, which is something you'll notice throughout Fargo Moorhead and the metro as a whole. Overall, West Fargo offers a really balanced mix of historic roots, intentional redevelopment, strong parks, newer housing, and some of the most upscale neighborhoods in the area. It's a city that has grown quickly, but thoughtfully, and it continues to be a major focus for residential and commercial development in the metro. Horace is one of the fastest growing cities in the entire state of North Dakota, and it's easy to see why. Horace offers that small town feel that so many people are looking for, while still being right next to all the amenities of Fargo and the West Fargo metro. Over the last several years, it's grown fast. And with that kind of growth, there have been some growing pains along the way. But even with that, Horace remains one of the most highly sought after places to live in the area. One of the biggest draws here is the school setup. Horace has its own elementary school, middle school, and high school, which typically means smaller class sizes, something many families find extremely appealing. At the same time, Horace is still a part of the West Fargo Public School District, which gives residents access to the resources and reputation of a larger district, while still keeping that small community environment. Another thing that's really interesting about Horace right now is how much newer development is happening. You're seeing more and more new neighborhoods, new construction homes, and new local businesses popping up throughout the city. In fact, if you look at the housing stock overall, Old Horace is starting to be outnumbered, I think, by New Horace. The amount of new construction compared to older established homes has shifted significantly in recent years. What also stands out is how seamless the transition feels when you're driving between Fargo, West Fargo, and Horace. It's no longer super obvious when you've left one city and entered another. The development doesn't really break up the way it used to. Horace has truly become an integrated part of the metro conversation rather than feeling like a separate, out-of-the-way town. So if you're someone who wants a small town feel, newer homes, newer schools, and smaller class sizes, but you don't want to give up proximity to shopping, dining, jobs, and entertainment, Horace is a really strong option. And one that continues to grow in popularity every single year. Okay, let's talk about the M of the notorious FM area, Moorhead. This is Minnesota, and that distinction actually matters. When you're driving around the metro, it's not always obvious when you've crossed into a different state. The only real giveaway is crossing the Red River. If you haven't gone over a bridge, chances are you're still in the same state. Once you cross it, things start to feel a little different. Not dramatically, but you can feel it. And that difference is a big reason people choose Moorhead, even though it's part of the same metro. Minnesota and North Dakota don't operate the same way. From taxes to policies to how communities invest in things like education, the arts, and public spaces, those differences matter when you're deciding where to live. I break this down much more in my Minnesota versus North Dakota video, but it's definitely something you should understand if you're relocating here. One thing people almost always notice about Moorhead, even if they can't quite explain it, is that it just feels less busy. It's quieter, slower paced, and honestly, it's a little hard to put into words until you experience it yourself. Part of that is probably because Moorhead doesn't have as much large-scale commercial development as Fargo, West Fargo, or Horace. A lot of the big retail, dining, and business growth has happened on the North Dakota side of the river, likely because of the tax incentives North Dakota offers businesses. Moorhead absolutely has its own restaurants, shops, and retail, and locals really do try to support them. But Moorhead residents will also be the first to admit that they cross the river to Fargo pretty often, whether it's for shopping, entertainment, or just a change of menu. There are only so many times you can rotate through the same few favorite spots before you want more options. And Fargo fills that gap easily. Geographically, Moorhead is pretty easy to follow. Like much of the metro, it generally moves from older neighborhoods in the north to the newer neighborhoods in the south. On the far north side of Moorhead, you'll find larger lots and well-established neighborhoods with many homes built from the late 1970s through the early 2000s. These areas feel quiet and residential. They're close to the river, but not directly on it. From there, you run into the Moorhead Country Club, which is one of those understated local gems. Mature trees, a beautiful course, and a pace of life that really fits the city. From the Country Club, older homes flow toward Main Avenue, and then you move into Central Moorhead. This is where the city's personality really starts to show. This area is home to Concordia College and Minnesota State University Moorhead, both located right in the heart of the community. Because of that, you'll naturally see more rental-style housing here, smaller single-family homes, duplexes, and multifamily properties, just like we talked about with NDSU on the Fargo side. Being close to colleges often creates solid opportunities for people looking to invest in real estate, whether that's long-term rentals, owner-occupied homes with extra income, or parents buying for their kids while they're in school. This part of Moorhead tends to attract buyers with an investment mindset. The college presence also shapes the overall feel of the area. Moorhead comes across as more academic, more arts-focused, and very community-driven. There's a creative energy here that shows up in local events, performing arts, and how the city prioritizes public spaces. One of the main streets running through Moorhead is 8th Street. It cuts straight through the city and is lined with local businesses, restaurants, and everyday services. As you head south, it eventually turns into Highway 75 and carries you out of Moorhead, making it one of the city's main spines. Another major corridor is Main Avenue, which flows right into downtown Fargo. This is where you'll find a mix of businesses, grocery stores, and one of Moorhead's most well-known landmarks, the Dairy Queen, that's widely credited for the birthplace of the Dilly Bar. It's a fun piece of local history and very on brand for this part of town. You'll also see additional shopping and dining along Highway 10, especially if you head east towards Dilworth. You'll find larger retails like Target and Walmart here. In the same general area on the east side of Moorhead, you'll find Moorhead High School and the middle school, along with the Meadows Golf Course. Elementary schools are spread evenly throughout the city, including a Spanish immersion school, which is the only one of its kind in the metro. As you move farther south and west, you'll start to see newer residential development. These homes are built mostly within the last 20 years, and in southern points of the city, there are still a lot of lots available for new construction homes. The southwest part of the city is also home to Bluestem Amphitheater and Trollwood Performing Arts School, which really highlight Moorhead's emphasis on arts, culture, and community involvement. So, if you're someone who wants to live on the Minnesota side of the river, prefers a slightly quieter pace of life, values education and the arts, and doesn't mind crossing a bridge for shopping and dining, Moorhead can be a really great fit. And it plays an important role in balancing the overall personality of the Fargo-Moorhead Metro. So here's the truth. It doesn't really matter where you live in the Fargo-Moorhead Metro, because the entire area is set up so you don't actually have to leave your part of town unless you want to. This is a really well-planned community overall. No matter where you live, Fargo, West Fargo, Horace, or Moorhead, you're almost always going to have grocery stores, restaurants, schools, and everyday conveniences close by. You're not constantly driving across town just to live your life, unless you choose to. And when it comes to commute times, that's honestly one of the biggest perks of living here. Even going from one end of Horace all the way up to North Fargo, you're usually talking about 15 to maybe 20 minutes on the long side. This isn't a large metro where your commute has to be the deciding factor in where you live. It just doesn't carry the same weight here. Because of that, when you're deciding where to live in the FM area, the conversation really shifts. Instead of asking, how far will my commute be? You get to ask, which state do I want to live in? And then, which neighborhoods or school districts fit my lifestyle best? You'll want to figure out what matters most to you, whether that's taxes, schools, new construction, established neighborhoods, arts and culture, or pace of life, and prioritize from there. There's no single right answer. It's about finding the right fit for you. And this is where working with someone who truly knows the area matters. Every part of this metro has its own personality, its own advantages, and its own trade-offs. And having a local professional who understands all of that can make the process a lot easier. So here's my question for you. If you had to choose today, which city would you pick? Fargo, West Fargo, Horace, or Moorhead? Drop it in the comments. I'm always curious to see where people land. And if you're thinking about moving here and want help narrowing it all down, that's exactly what I do. I'd love to help guide you through it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.